The studio lights dimmed, leaving a tense silence. Sam Heughan and Caitriona Balfe had just finished a long day of shooting, but instead of breathing a sigh of relief, they stood still, exchanging quick glances. Outside the gate, reporters were gathering like wolves, ready to swarm them with questions that delved into their private lives and rumors. "We can't go through the main entrance," Caitriona said softly, pulling her coat hood over her striking hair. Sam nodded, his eyes shining with determination. "I know there's an old tunnel that leads to the back parking lot." Their shoes echoed softly in the empty hallway, each step cautious as if any noise could give away their plan. They passed through technical doors, cold concrete walls, and dim lighting like a scene from a spy movie. As they turned into a small alley, they suddenly heard the sound of a metal door creaking behind them. A figure appeared, the loyal security guard who had silently assisted them many times. He smiled and lowered his voice. "Hurry up, the reporters are starting to get suspicious. I'll hold them off." Sam and Caitriona bowed their heads in thanks and continued to rush into the tunnel. The air was damp, the smell of rusty iron wafted up, but nothing could stop them. Just a few minutes later, a small door opened, leading them straight to a dark parking lot. A black car was waiting, its engine revving slightly. Caitriona gasped, smiled slightly at Sam. "We've escaped." But Sam still turned his head to look back, his eyes shining with vigilance. "Just this time. They won't give up easily." The car glided into the night, leaving behind the flashing lights and shouts of the crowd of reporters left behind. In that moment, amid the pounding heart and adrenaline, both Sam and Caitriona knew this was not just an escape from the press, but also a reminder that the journey ahead would be full of challenges and secrets that needed to be protected at all costs. The car rolled through the cold night, gliding through the deserted suburban streets. The tinted windows hid the two tense faces inside. Sam glanced in the rearview mirror, the silhouettes of other cars still looming behind him. "Looks like they're not letting up," he said quietly, his hands tightening on the steering wheel. Caitriona pulled her coat hood down, her eyes a mix of worry and determination. "Sam, we can't afford to get another picture taken. If they get one, everything will explode." For a moment, they were both silent. The rumble of the engine mingled with the pounding of their hearts. In the distance, lights flashed, maybe a press van was tailing them. Sam swerved sharply into a narrow alley. "Hold on," he said quickly. The wheels scraped on the wet pavement, leaving a long skid mark. The car tilted to one side, but Sam kept control. Caitriona chuckled, a slightly shaky laugh. "You drive like you're in an action movie." "Not much different," Sam replied, his eyes never leaving the road ahead. "Only this time, we don't have a script." A car horn honked behind him. A silver sedan followed closely, its flashbulbs flashing like knives in the darkness. Sam accelerated, maneuvering the car around each tight corner, while Caitriona tried to hide her face. "We have to distract them," she whispered. "Otherwise, tomorrow morning the papers will be full of it." Sam glanced at Caitriona, his eyes flashing with determination. "Trust me." He suddenly braked sharply before a dead end, then turned off the headlights. For a moment, they both held their breath. The sedan behind them rushed forward, its headlights shining, but before they knew it, Sam had backed up into a nearby alley. The press van passed, disappearing into the darkness. The silence was complete, except for the sound of a heartbeat and heavy breathing. Caitriona put her hand to her chest, laughing softly but nervously. "You're really reckless." Sam looked at her, a half-smile on his lips. "As long as you're safe." After losing the tail, they turned onto a road that led to a deserted suburb. A small wooden house, deep in the woods, appeared under the moonlight. This was where Sam often rested when he needed absolute peace and quiet. The wooden door creaked slightly as he opened it. The space inside was warm with the flickering firelight, a stark contrast to the chaos outside. Caitriona sank into the armchair, her eyes closing for a few seconds as if to let it all out. "I'm so tired," she whispered. Sam sat down opposite her, handing her a cup of hot tea. I know, but you have to believe that we can't let them control our lives. The firelight reflected in Caitriona's eyes, making them sparkle as if holding back something. Sam, have you ever felt like things have gone too far? The rumors, the surveillance, have we ever lost ourselves? Sam was silent. He understood that feeling better than anyone. But he also knew that if they let doubt take over, they would collapse. He reached out and placed his hand on hers. Kate, as long as we stand together, nothing can bring us down. She looked at him, a small smile appearing. In that moment, the distance between them was no longer that of two actors, no longer that of colleagues, but two souls fighting against the world. As the night deepened, the sudden ringing of the phone broke the peaceful atmosphere. Sam frowned at the screen, an anonymous text message. Do you think you can escape? We always know where you are. Caitriona paled. Sam, does that mean someone is watching us right now? He gripped the phone tightly, his eyes cold. Someone is behind everything, controlling the press, spreading rumors, and even tailing. The atmosphere in the house suddenly became heavy. Both of them understood clearly, this was no longer simply a matter of avoiding reporters. There was an underground force, an invisible hand that wanted to break them, wanted to push them into an endless spiral of rumors. Sam walked to the window, gently pulled the curtain and looked out. The night was silent, but the feeling of invisible eyes watching made him uneasy. We have to find out who is behind it, he said, his voice resolute. Caitriona nodded slightly, her eyes blazing with determination. Otherwise, there will never be peace for us. The fire in the fireplace burned brightly, reflecting off their faces. They sat facing each other, no longer hiding. Sam reached out and took Caitriona's hand, squeezing it tightly. I swear, he said hoarsely, no matter who I face, the press or some other faceless person, I will protect you. Caitriona looked at him for a long time, then nodded slightly. And you too, Sam. We are more than just co-stars, we are allies, the only ones who understand each other's fears and strengths. Outside, the wind whistled through the trees, like a faint warning. But in that small cabin, an oath was carved deep, an oath that would take them far beyond fame, far beyond the spotlight. A new journey had begun. A journey not just to escape the press, but to fight the dark forces behind the curtain of gossip. And in that fight, Sam Heughan and Caitriona Balfe will never be alone. Kate, as long as we stand together, nothing can defeat us. Caitriona nodded slightly, her eyes shining with an indescribable belief. But just as they thought they could be at peace for a moment, the wind outside the window suddenly whistled loudly, carrying an inexplicable feeling of dread. Sam's phone vibrated again. Another text message appeared, cold and challenging. Don't think this house can hide you. The game has just begun. The two looked at each other, the silence heavier than any words. The fire in the fireplace was still burning, but the darkness around them seemed to be gradually tightening. Sam clenched his fists, his voice low, he knows we're here. Caitriona took a deep breath, her eyes no longer fearful, but instead determined. Then we have to be one step ahead. If someone wants to play this game, we won't let ourselves be turned into prey. In the cabin in the woods, a silent decision was made. They were no longer just running, but preparing to enter a confrontation with no known end. And out there, where the night swallowed everything, someone was still watching, smiling in the darkness, waiting for Sam and Caitriona's next move. The real battle had only just begun.